It is 0441 hours on November 12, 2025, over the contested international waters of the Philippine Sea. The area, recognized globally as part of the Western Pacific's vital shipping lanes, was about to become a zero-tolerance arena for naval doctrine. Aboard the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan, CVN-76, a first-class operations specialist positioned at the AN-SPY-6 V1 Air and Missile Defense Radar Console in the Combat Information Center, or CIC, watched his tactical plot transition from benign blue to a high-density red contact field.
Not 10, not 20, but 60 distinct naval signatures were materializing from the darkness. These radar ghosts, converging with calculated speed, signaled a military standoff unmatched in scale since the mid-20th century. The goal of the next 4 hours would be absolute procedural control and calculated risk management. The Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group, CSG, was engaged in a routine maritime assertion mission, a high-visibility patrol confirming international transit rights. The CSG was screened by the Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser USS Antietam CG-54 and the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers USS Milius DDG-69 and USS Decatur DDG-73.
These vessels, bristling with Aegis capability, were designed for layered defense, utilizing the vast processing power of the AN-SPY-1DV and advanced AN-SPY-6 multifunction radars for wide-area surveillance. Their mission was operational presence. The People's Liberation Army Navy Plan Force was massive, a coordinated multi-vector group comprising Type 052D Luoyang 3 destroyers, Type 054A Zhangkai 2 frigates, and numerous Type 056A Zhangdao corvettes. The plan's strategic objective was clear: non-kinetic, absolute denial.
They intended to form a concentric, inescapable blockade in international waters, using overwhelming numerical superiority to pressure the American force into withdrawal. The numerical disadvantage for the U.S. forces was approximately 15-1 in surface vessels. This was containment by massed presence. At 0447 hours, the rapid increase in contacts forced Captain Morrison, commanding the Ronald Reagan, to order general quarters. Alarm klaxons wailed throughout the vessel, cutting through the silence of the mid-watch. 5,000 sailors transitioned from sleep to battle stations in moments.
A controlled chaos dictated by years of muscle memory and procedural drilling. In the CIC, the lights shifted to a deep crimson, and the atmosphere became one of urgent focus. Watch officers confirmed the classification of every contact. Hostile intent not yet confirmed, but military trajectory confirmed. Within the defensive screen, the escort destroyers immediately brought their systems to maximum readiness. The vertical launch systems, or VLS, were primed for kinetic engagement, loaded with a mix of SM-2 Standard missiles for area defense and evolved Sea Sparrow missiles for close-range anti-ship defense.
The focus shifted immediately to the electromagnetic spectrum. The sensor-to-sensor engagement began at the electronic warfare console. Lieutenant Commander Evans, the electronic warfare officer, EWO, began monitoring the AN-SLQ-32V4 SEWIP Block 2 system. He watched for the telltale pulse repetition frequency and pulse width of hostile targeting radars. The plan's primary engagement system, the Type 346A AAESA radar on their destroyers, was emitting, but deliberately restricted, operating in a sophisticated low probability of intercept LPI mode.
The LPI mode utilized rapid frequency hopping and minimal power to maintain passive tracking without triggering a full threat warning. The U.S. objective was to maintain electronic emission control, or EMCON, while gathering intelligence on the Chinese emitters. Simultaneously, the acoustic battlespace began beneath the waves. The deep screen relied on an attending U.S. Navy Los Angeles-class nuclear-powered attack submarine, SSN. Operating under extreme run-silent, run-deep protocols, the SSN vanished into the thermal layers, utilizing its advanced BQQ-5 sonar suite.
Its mission was to detect and classify any accompanying planned Type 093 Shang class or Type 039A Yuan class submarines. The U.S. SSN's silent forward picket position was crucial, effectively holding the threat of underwater engagement in check and preventing the plan from achieving complete acoustic sanctuary. The aerial component soon followed. At 0531 hours, 6 FA-18EF Super Hornets were launched from the flight deck. The powerful steam-powered catapults hurled the 40,000-pound aircraft to 165 knots in 2 seconds, their General Electric F414 turbofan engines roaring.
They climbed aggressively to 30,000 feet, establishing a high-altitude combat air patrol, or CAP. Each fighter relied on the formidable AN/PG-79 Active Electronically Scanned Array, or AESA, radar, which offers unparalleled situational awareness and the ability to detect targets at extended ranges. This capability exemplified first look, first shot. The PLAN counterforce soon appeared, a circulating patrol of Shenyang J-15 carrier-borne fighters and Xi'an H-6 bombers. These aircraft maintained a considerable distance but established undeniable presence. The American CAP maintained strict rules of engagement, no hostile action unless fired upon, but immediate and overwhelming response to any weapon-quality track, a radar lock sufficient to guide a missile. The U.S. aircrew held the technological edge in sensor fusion and energy management, but were outnumbered 2-to-1. By 0547 hours, the plan had achieved a full, multi-layered encirclement, maintaining ranges between 6 and 14 nautical miles. The tension became palpable as the broadcasts began. Rapid Mandarin transmissions, interspersed with broken English, demanding immediate departure from what they falsely claimed were territorial waters. Captain Morrison, studying the illuminated tactical plot in silence, maintained absolute adherence to international maritime law. He directed all communication to be non-provocative but firm in the assertion of rights. The strategic shift came at 0808 hours. Captain Morrison recognized that the prolonged standoff favored the numerically superior blockading force. This was a command decision to shift the burden of risk, the risk of collision, the risk of escalation, entirely onto the encircling PLAN forces. The entire CSG accelerated its formation to 28 knots, pushing the 2 A4W nuclear reactors to their high power output levels. The breakout was spearheaded by extreme air power aggression. 6 additional FA-18F Super Hornets were launched. These fighters descended from altitude and accelerated to supersonic speed, achieving over Mach 1.2. The pilots executed a rapid sequence of low-altitude, high-speed show-of-force passes directly over the PLN destroyers and frigates, forming the innermost containment ring. The sonic booms created by the pressure waves impacted the masts and decks of the PLN vessels. This was a non-lethal but undeniable display of kinetic force. The maneuver demonstrated an absolute, unhesitating willingness to operate at the brink of hostile action. The PLN air controllers calculated the risk of an unintended engagement and its catastrophic political fallout as too high.
The planned J-15 fighters broke off their intended interception, conceding air superiority and the momentum to the U.S. The final element was the surface confrontation. Two planned destroyers, attempting a final, desperate blocking maneuver, positioned themselves directly in the carrier's advancement vector. Captain Morrison held the course and speed, ordering 0 deviation. The Ronald Reagan, displacing 100,000 tons and moving at 28 knots, represented an unstoppable force. Faced with the reality of an imminent high kinetic energy collision, planned commanders issued emergency evasive maneuvers.
At 0813 hours, the two blocking destroyers executed maximum rudder, hard port turns. The violent lateral acceleration caused severe listing and resulted in reported equipment casualties, unsecured systems tearing loose, and sensitive electronic warfare and navigation systems experiencing temporary cascade failures. The aggressive commitment of the American commander had shattered the tactical cohesion of the blockade. The Ronald Reagan CSG advanced through the southern sector opening at maximum speed, leaving the disoriented and recovering PLAN vessels in its wake.
The pursuit that followed was strategically futile. The American nuclear propulsion granted the CSG virtually unlimited range and the ability to sustain maximum speed indefinitely. The conventionally powered planned vessels, relying on CODOG/COGAG systems, could not match the sustained acceleration required to close the gap. By 0824 hours, the carrier strike group had achieved sufficient speed separation to place it beyond effective pursuit range. The operational failure of the blockade was complete. The lessons were profound. The convergence of Aegis capability, GAN-based AESA radar technology, and tactical discipline provided an insurmountable advantage.
The resolution confirmed that technological superiority and decisive, non-yielding leadership can defeat numerical advantage in the modern gray zone. The margin of victory resided not in the number of hulls, but in the reliability, integration, and training applied to advanced sensor systems. The ability to maintain electronic emission control and simultaneously achieve electronic superiority, to see the enemy without being seen, and to blind their critical fire control loops was the ultimate guarantor of the Ronald Reagan's tactical success.
In the digital battle space, information is the only hard currency. The entire operation was concluded by 0900 hours, emphasizing that future naval confrontations will be won not with ordnance, but with the precise and calculated application of high-end sensor systems. The operation also demonstrated the necessity of strict procedural discipline in executing complex maneuvers under extreme pressure. Every watch officer, sensor operator, and pilot executed assigned roles flawlessly, enabling the CSG to maintain coordinated situational dominance.
The CSG's non-kinetic presence, combined with decisive and calculated kinetic demonstrations, forced the plan to cede both air and surface control without a single missile being fired. The professional threshold of risk was managed to achieve strategic effect without escalation. Each component of the strike group, from ANSPY-6 radars to Aegis cruisers, from Super Hornet caps to nuclear propulsion, worked as an integrated system. The coordination ensured that every threat vector was observed, assessed, and mitigated in real time, demonstrating modern naval warfare integration.
The standoff highlighted the efficacy of information dominance. The PLAN's superior numbers were rendered ineffective when their sensors and coordination could be neutralized through disciplined control, superior speed, and overwhelming procedural expertise. Ultimately, the operation reinforced a critical principle. Modern naval engagements are won by the ability to control the electromagnetic spectrum, integrate air and surface assets seamlessly, and operate decisively at the very edge of professional risk. The operation validated that mastery of sensors, networked systems, and rapid decision-making can nullify numerical superiority.
Even in a densely contested theater, integrated naval forces can impose strategic outcomes through professional skill and technological advantage. The CSG's ability to operate continuously at maximum speed, combined with air power displays and integrated sensor coverage, ensured that the plan's blockade failed entirely. The U.S. maintained initiative and operational momentum throughout the engagement.
The lessons learned confirmed that future gray zone naval confrontations would hinge on electronic superiority, procedural discipline, and the capacity to exploit technological edges. Physical attrition is secondary to mastery of observation and control. Precision application of sensor systems, combined with nuclear propulsion and disciplined air operations, allowed the Ronald Reagan CSG to neutralize a superior force without kinetic escalation, exemplifying the new doctrine of controlled dominance in contested waters.
The coordinated show of force maneuvers by F/18F Super Hornets, low-altitude supersonic passes, and sonic booms demonstrated that psychological and kinetic presence can achieve objectives without a single missile being launched. Planned commanders were forced into reactive maneuvers, conceding both air and surface control. The American strategy relied on imposing calculated risk, leveraging technical superiority, and maintaining composure under extreme operational pressure. The Ronald Reagan CSG's success illustrated that large integrated naval formations, when managed with procedural excellence, can operate in the gray zone to assert rights and freedom of navigation, leaving adversaries in operational disarray. All elements, from SPY-6 radars to Aegis cruisers, Super Hornet caps, and nuclear propulsion, acted as a single, synchronized system. The result was unbroken situational awareness, total control of engagement spaces, and strategic dominance over the contested sector.
The engagement underscored that technology, training, and integration outweigh mere numerical presence. Success in modern naval conflicts relies on precise control of sensors, effective energy management, and the ability to operate decisively at professional thresholds of risk. By 900 hours, the operation concluded. The Ronald Reagan CSG had achieved complete tactical and operational success. Future naval confrontations would be defined not by ordnance expenditure, but by mastery of information, technology, and disciplined execution at the highest levels.